All right, everybody, here we are for episode 63 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. It's been a crazy 62 previous episodes. It's been fun just talking movies, with Wayne over here, and hopefully people are enjoying listening. This week we're going to talk about an actor who, I think kind of gets pushed into one category because people know him more for his action-heavy films, and that's Jason Statham. I think he actually has a lot of range. I think an issue can happen with an actor where they kind of get put into a box, and he definitely in the early 2000s, I would say, got put into that box and kind of hasn't left it. But he's been very successful with it and had made lots of money off of it. So I think that's been very helpful for his career.
Right. He's got a very distinctive speech pattern or
He
delivery.
does, yes.
He's got the, I don't want to be reckoned with, and
And
I'll kill you if I have to.
And he's also one of those actors too that can never get rid of it. So any character he plays, whether he's in America or England or Europe or wherever, he has to be a character that's has that accent. So if he like in Homefront, if he's he's an he's a former British soldier or whatever who now lives in America type of thing. So
underrated film, by the way. I really enjoyed that one.
I did like that one. We are going to just kind of go through his list. I do want to talk about basically where he started, and that's with Guy Ritchie. He did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then I think what everybody, at least I think for Jason Statham, considered to be the better movie, and that is Snatch. Huge ensemble cast, obviously. Brad Pitt, Benicio del Toro, directed by Guy Ritchie. It was Guy Ritchie's second film. It's a great heist crime film with lots of twists and turns, and Brad Pitt's accent, which he's noticeably. He's usually terrible with accents, is what I'm trying to say. And this one, because it's the gypsy, the Scottish gypsy accent, and you don't understand it, it works perfectly for this role. They have a lot of fun with not being able to understand him. That's kind of the point of the movie, of his character anyway. But Statham plays the kind of more straight lead. Like he has the least amount of jokes in this one, but this is the movie where he showed that after Lock, Stock, where he was part of like the kind of minor ensemble there, and he was just one of the guys. This one he comes out front, and he's the lead character, and he does it very well. And I think this is what made producers and directors around the world go like, oh, well, he could lead a movie and he could handle it very well with all this craziness happening around him, and he did a really good job. Later on in life, he would become part of the craziness, but I think when he has to lead a film, he does kind of know what he has to do for that particular role.
Right. One of the complaints that people talked about was, like you mentioned, the dialogue, and
yes,
with Brad Pitt being, kind of over the top with it.
Yep.
It always reminds me of the Robin Williams sketch where he's talking about the origins of golf.
Yes, yeah, it gets very Scottish and very hard to understand. Yes, very good.
Fuck no, 18 fucking times, and you're whacking away with a tire iron. You feel like you're gonna have a fucking stroke. That's what we'll call it. I don't know. A little carried away there, but I always draw that connection with Snatch, just because. I don't know. I just picture that.
Yes, no, it definitely makes a lot of sense. Stephen Graham is in it as well, and he plays his Jason Statham's right hand. Turkish is Statham, Tommy is Graham, and then Mickey is Brad Pitt. You also have Bullet Tooth Tony, played by the great Vinnie Jones, who's this big badass character who does not have a great end if you haven't seen the movie. Dennis Farina plays one of the American mob boss. Ewan Bremer plays one of the characters, like in all the British movies. It just has a really great cast, and I think Guy Ritchie, it's probably him at his best. He's reached that level or come close to that level recently, I think. One movie with Statham that's a little different, but we'll get to that one in a little bit. So he does that movie. That kind of opens him up to American audiences. People start to recognize him after Snatch and Lock, Stock. I remember Lock, Stock had the big MTV push behind it, so that's where I remember seeing like a lot of the trailers and stuff. He does Ghost of Mars from John Carpenter, the one with Jet Li, which was a big movie.
Yeah.
But then in 2002, and I have it somewhere, but I don't have it up here. He does Transporter. Now, when this movie came out, I hated it. I really did. I was like, oh, wow, this movie's so dumb. But to me, it was similar to the Fast and the Furious movies, where the second one was coming out, and I'm like, it looks kind of cool. Like, it looks ridiculous, but it looks cool. So I watched the first one again, and I kind of had a new appreciation for it after that.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see the second one in theaters with my buddy, and I was like just loving it. It's so ridiculous. Like in the second Transporter movie, there's a scene where he like flips a car in midair and it unhooks the bomb from underneath. Ridiculous. It's James Bond type shit in a movie that didn't really explain how he has all this stuff, all this stuff to use to his advantage.
Where does he get those wonderful toys?
Exactly. Basically. Transporter 3 still does really suck, so I will stand by that one. But one and 2 are quite fine. I never saw the remake without him. And I think his next movie after that, I think is a movie that I think we both really like, The Italian Job.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean that one he's part of an ensemble, but Mark Wahlberg, Ed Norton, I almost said Eddie Burns, Ed Norton, Mos Def was in that one. Great ensemble cast, great remake of a Michael Caine movie.
Mm-hmm. The thing that overshadows The Italian Job for me is just the well-known fact that Ed Norton did not want to be in this movie. He was contractually obligated to appear.
They wouldn't let him out, of his contract.
It just, I don't know, just that affects like how I perceive his performance. It just kind of seems like not mailing it in, but just kind of half-assed, I guess.
For Edward Norton, he kind of walked through that movie. He didn't really do anything special. Part of it had to do because early on he asked to get out of the contract that wouldn't let him out, so he did the movie. Mm-hmm. He just didn't have a good time with it, and even Mark Wahlberg, I think, after the fact, said they probably should have just let him out of his contract because it was not a good fit for everybody. But it's just another great ensemble cast that shows that Statham can work with anybody. Charlize Theron was in that too, who he would work with years later. Seth Green, I always forget that he's in that movie. But you gotta have that.
I forgot until you just said it.
you gotta have the funny guy, right? And he's the fire. If I remember correctly, he's the comedy of the movie for the most part. I think him and Statham, because Statham kind of plays pretty funny in that movie too, to kind of show that he can do a little bit of everything. F. Gary Gray did that one. He had a small part in Collateral. He was in Cellular. We talked about Transporter 2. London. Revolver Chaos is one I don't know that a lot of people know about. It's with him and Ryan Phillippe and Wesley Snipes from 2005. Mm-hmm. Actually a pretty decent movie. It was basically, I think, like straight to video or maybe hit a couple film festivals or something. But
those are some pretty big names that have go straight to
video.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I remember when I was at Blockbuster and I was like, well, what is this? It's pretty good. It's not a bad movie. And then you get in some of so then when you have these actors like this who work great on ensembles, they end up taking on movies that you're like, why did they do this? In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale. Some big, just epic disaster of a movie directed by Uwe Boll, who, if anyone knows that name, knows he's synonymous with awful, awful films. But at that time, he was able to get such huge casts for his movies. I mean, I'm going to read the cast of this movie, and you're going to be like, wait, those people were all in one movie that I've never heard of before?
Uh-oh. While he's doing that, guys. Wow.
Jason Statham, Lily Sobolewski, John Rhys Davies, Ron Perlman, Claire Forlani, Matthew Lillard. Let's see, Ray Liotta, Burt Reynolds. I don't know who Uwe Boll had dirty pictures of somebody that he was able to get these casts, but after he made some really awful movies early on, and then all of a sudden he was able to do these movies like Blood Rain, Sir Ben Kingsley in Blood Rain, a video game movie. Come on, ridiculous.
As you went through that cast list, though, I was thinking, that could either be really good or a dumpster fire. So.
Well, and they made a sequel with Dolph Lundgren because I think it's like a time travel thing. So Dolph Lundgren plays an heir to the family of Jason Statham's family who travels back in time and is stuck in this dungeon siege.
I know we're talking about Jason Statham, but right now I want to talk about Dolph Lundgren because he's either in great movies or terrible movies.
Co-star in Expendables with Jason Statham. So I mean, these things kind of do come full circle at some point. War with Jet Li. I actually have that one up here. I do like that movie. Jet Li. Back when he was young and healthy, and it's unfortunate what's happened to him lately with his health declining and unable to do the things he used to. Yeah. But back in the day, man, when he was coming up, him and Statham, that's their second movie together. Obviously, they would re-team again in Expendables, but War was one of those movies that had a really cool kind of twist to the ending. It's basically you're watching two really fun martial artists fight off against each other for 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was a really good time. It's not, expertly written or anything. It's just a fun, action-packed kick-ass movie. So that's what Bank Job, which I do have that one over here somewhere. That's actually one of his, like, I would say, really good movies.
Yeah.
Well acted. It's a drama. It's not really an action film, even though it's listed as action because it's a heist movie. And at the end of the movie, he does get to kick someone in the face. It was almost like when he kicked that guy in the face. I remember thinking after watching the movie, like that was like in his contract, like at least kick one person in face. And he did it. And he did it well. He did the Death Race.
I always get that one and the Italian Job.
The Italian, yes.
When I'm thinking right away, I was like, wait a minute, which one is which?
Which one did he do? Which one was he the main character? And even Bank Job was another one that had a great like ensemble cast. It wasn't just him. You Saffron Burrows, Daniel Mays, a lot of British actors, obviously.
I initially went. Is that the one with Mark Wahlberg? No.
Yeah, right, exactly. Roger Donaldson was the director. He's done some big movies here and there. And then you get Death Race, which is very much a B movie. It's a remake. It's a B movie remake of a B movie. So, of a really big B movie. So, it kind of had this line that it had to follow. It did a pretty decent job. It's not great, but it's okay, I think.
I remember when it was first announced, people were like, "Oh God, is this a Twisted Metal adaptation?"
Yeah, right.
The video game,
which we're finally getting.
Would have been cool, and I'm excited for it at the time. But
we're getting the TV show, so
yeah,
which they say could lead into another video game, which I think will be fun.
That would be good.
All right, so Expendables, that was a big one. The Expendables, Stallone, Schwarzenegger. Statham was the other main character next to Stallone in it.
Pretty much anyone that was ever in an action movie.
Yes.
Ever.
They just announced a fourth one with him and Stallone. Randy Couture will be returning. That was the guy, I think we were talking about this last week, and I couldn't remember his name. He was in the original. Terry Crews was in the original. Dolph Lundgren was in the original. Jet Li. You had Eric Roberts as one of the villains. And Stone Cold was one of the villains as well. I always liked Stone Cold in his movies, so it was fun to see him in that. The first Expendables, I think, to me was like everything I wanted it to be. I remember seeing it in theaters. I was like, this is exactly what I needed out of this type of movie. I like all three of them, and he's in all three of them. I know people didn't really care for the third one as much, but there is an unrated cut on Blu-ray that you can watch because for some reason they did a third one. They rated it PG-13. I don't understand what the idea behind that was.
What? Yeah, come on,
you bastards! It's
like
you add Mel Gibson and you add Wesley Snipes, and then you think PG-13? Like it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
No. Come on, guys.
I did love the second one with Van Damme as the villain. I thought that was really fun. Let's see. Then you get the Mechanic. You get a lot of remakes. The Mechanic remake, Killer Elite, which I believe was a remake. Blitz. Safe. Safe is one. Have you seen Safe, Wayne?
I have not seen Safe.
Safe is one that I really like. It's one where he's like tasked with protecting a young girl, right. And so those ones are always fun because you get to see just a lot of kick-ass shit and explosions and gun violence. And I really like Safe. That's another one that had a pretty good, I think, cast surrounding him. Chris Sarandon from Fright Night and Princess Bride was in that one. Robert John Burke, James Hong, Anson Munt plays like the other assassin in the movie that he fights against. That one I liked. There's one of those movies that I saw and I was like, oh, this one's actually really good. Parker with Jennifer Lopez, that was great. So then in 2013, not only we have Homefront, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning. James Franco plays the villain, which I thought was an interesting turn.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. Right. So Statham is the guy whose wife dies, and he basically is like a former law enforcement dude. And he goes to live in his wife's old town and kind of bring his daughter up the same way his wife grew up. And then, of course, as it happens, he ends up running amok with the local drug dealer and his sister, played by...
just some good old boys.
Yes. Kate, what's her name? The one with two different colored eyes. That's how I remember her. Kate Bosworth. Winona Ryder also in that one as well. Clancy Brown plays the sheriff. Omar Benson Miller from Ballers. Rachel Lefevre plays the teacher. She's from Twilight. Frank Grillo in that one. That was kind of before Frank Grillo started headlining his own movies. He was just like a bad guy that was sent in to take him down. Yeah, really fun movie. I just watched it again recently. Statham is just really good in that. just kind of has that kind of role down to a T, I think, and that's what really I think helped him. But that same year, he was in Fast and Furious 6 in the end credit scene, setting up Furious 7, which I think is probably my favorite Furious movie. We'll get into the Furious movies. We're going to do a whole thing.
It definitely, this one, is that 7? Yeah. That one definitely has the best ending. In my opinion, the perfect way to end the series. But of course, movies that make millions and millions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
There are always going to be more. And,
exactly.
This was obviously the film that Paul Walker was making when he unfortunately passed away.
Yes.
And with the help of his brothers and some very, very early CGI that was kind of spotty. But...
Yeah, it's not the greatest. I did just go through a marathon of these movies. I'm waiting for it to see the 9th one, obviously. Yeah. But this movie, I saw this in theaters. I remember I'd broken my hip. My wife was out of town, and I was just like, you know what? I had my walker. I was like, I'm going to go see a movie. It's like Easter weekend or something. And I think a lot of it had to do, because this is the first Furious movie, and actually the only Furious movie I've seen in theaters since the very first movie. So I saw the first movie and this one. Because I didn't become a fan of them until kind of after they started hitting Blu-ray, the 4, 5, and 6. And with this one, I was like, you know what? Paul Walker passed away while making it. I got to go see it. And you know what? It was a hell of a good time. It was basically Fast and Furious World Tours. They go all over and then end back up in LA where it all began. That's again hinting why it would have been a good one to go out on, because it kind of it wrapped up itself really well. And I think I don't know if that was the intention from the beginning. I assume it probably was, but part of me wants to believe after he passed away, they added some of that feel to it, like wrapping up, like this is the last time we're going to see him.
Right.
Let's have it end back in California. And of course, James Wan, who we'll be talking about a little later, that was his first kind of big budget action movie that he got to direct, and he did a fantastic job with it, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, and rumor has it that the Paul Walker character, whose name escapes me right now,
is Brian O'Connor.
Brian O'Connor makes some type of reappearance in this 9th film that just came out. Neither one of us have seen it yet.
Yes.
And they have basically said that Brian O'Connor will be in the last one.
Yes.
10.
10/11, because I think it's a 2-parter, I believe.
So. Of course it is.
Of course, why not?
But anyway, I'm very interested to see what they say about that one. Again, we're getting way off topic with Jason Statham.
We are. Yeah. Next, he did. So in the same year he did Fury 7, he did a movie called Spy, which I talked about when we talked about Melissa McCarthy. I don't have it up here; it's over there somewhere. Spy is a great action comedy, and he is perfect in this movie because he plays the character that he plays in all his other movies, but he's an idiot, and it just works so well. Like he's like, oh no, I know what I'm doing, and then he does something and he totally f's it up, and it's hilarious. And if you haven't seen Spy, if you avoided it because of Melissa McCarthy or whatever it was, check it out because it's a really good movie. It's finally getting a sequel years later, so we're gonna probably like 7-8 years later it's gonna come out.
I give him credit just for being able to break the mold and kind of make fun of himself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Having the ability to not take himself so seriously, I think that's really the mark of a great actor.
Yes,
honestly,
he does it very well, and I think that movie. I'm surprised that movie didn't earn him some more comedic roles, but we did kind of see it in Hobbs and Shaw, where he gets to kind of him and The Rock get to go at each other a little bit.
Yeah.
He for some reason. I didn't think The Mechanic was that good of a movie, but it got a sequel. I honestly can't. I think I saw it, but I don't remember if I saw it. So
it's not that great when there's nothing memorable about it.
In this, I remember this scene, so I think I did see it because he's like, it's actually a really cool death scene in Mechanic Resurrection. He's his target is a guy in the swimming pool that's a swimming pool that hangs over like a street. So he actually attaches himself underneath the swimming pool. Like cuts a hole in the swimming pool, and then the guy falls through and dies. So it was a pretty creative. It was almost like a horror movie kill.
That is triggering my nightmare, sir.
I know, right?
Falling to my death from a swimming pool. Although why would I be falling from my death out of a swimming pool? I don't know.
Well, you could, because it happened in that movie.
I believe I can fly. No.
2018. Well, 2017 Fate of the Furious, and then 2018 he did a movie that I took my son to go see, and that was The Meg.
Yes.
This is a giant shark movie. A very fun kind of action shark movie. It's not Jaws. I know people that's what people compare it to because it's a shark movie.
Mm-hmm.
Great ensemble cast in that one. Ruby Rose, Cliff Curtis, Rainn Wilson, other many actors. It's just, yeah. I mean, it was a fun movie. It's if you like big shark movie action. I mean, that's one they're doing.
Big shark movie action.
They are doing another one of that as well. So look out for that one. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Now, Hobbs and Shaw, again, we'll dive deep into the Fast and Furious movies when we do that topic. Yeah. But this was another one where, yeah, I listened to how this movie got made, or how this film got made podcast with Paul Scheer and Jason Mantzoukas and June Diane Raphael, Paul's wife, and they talked about this movie, and they're right, like they were right, like it's kind of like the parents are away, so the kids will play. Mm-hmm. Jason Statham and The Rock got to have a lot of fun in this movie. Where if you watch the other Fast and the Furious movies, like the reason I love those movies is because Vin Diesel takes it so seriously. Like that's where the humor comes from in the original franchise. Yeah. In this one, they don't take it very seriously, but that's where they get their humor from is taking it very outlandish and always making fun of each other. I mean, they dig each other a million times in Hobbs and Shaw, making a very entertaining movie. I did get to see one of his most recent movies, Wrath of Man, which I thought was really good with him and Guy Ritchie. It's a different movie. It's not Snatch. It's not Lock, Stock. It's not even The Gentleman, which is Guy Ritchie's last movie. But it's good. It's kind of like one of those. It's almost like a Payback. That's what it reminds me of. It's like Payback, and you've one of those moments where you're like, oh, it's over, and then you're like, oh no, it's not over, and you're like, oh, this is cool. Like it had a great, and that one too had a great supporting cast. He had Scott Eastwood, who he worked with in the Fast movies. Holt McCallany, Josh Hartnett was in that one as well. Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice. Andy Garcia has a small role. So another really good cast. Laz Alonso from The Boys, who plays Mother's Milk. Mm-hmm. So he was in it. It was fun. It's fun to see actors that you don't see outside of TV shows in something else. Yeah, absolutely. So like I there was another movie I saw him in recently, and I was like, oh, he was in this. But yeah, so that's basically where we lead up to. I mean, he does have a uncredited part in F9, so that's been announced already. But I don't. Obviously, he's part of that franchise, so. We did talk about a couple weeks ago that he's got the Beekeeper movie coming out, which is an action-adventure movie about a beekeeper, and we'll use the beekeeper mythology, whichever mythology there is. I'm just happy we're getting something creative. Yes, exactly. Instead of rehashed, recycled plot lines. Which is very true. That does not bode well for his other movies, Spy 2 and Expendables 4. So the other two are sequels. He does have another Guy Ritchie film, so I'm excited that he's back working with Guy Ritchie. Yeah, like that bodes well. It's been a while. The last time they did it, it didn't work out. It was called Revolver, which I don't know if people know. It was a movie released in England. And then like 2 or 3 years later, got released in the United States finally. Mm-hmm. Which is weird when you think of a movie with Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham. You're like, why is that taking so long? Right. But it took a while because it was weird. It was kind of strange. Yeah. I skipped over that one when we were talking. Yes. So Jason Statham, he's had a great long career. The two movies we did not talk about right off the bat are these two because I wanted to wait, Wayne, until we get onto our next movie or our first movie in our next category. Mm-hmm. And here's the Crank movies. Yes. So Neville Dean and Taylor, two directors, had this idea that's kind of like it's like a video game almost. It's Crank, and Jason Statham wakes up in the very beginning of the movie and he's been poisoned and he's been given about an hour or so to live. Right. And he is dead set against revenge. And he wants to make these guys pay for what they did to him before he dies. And he's trying to stay alive as long as possible. He's trying to find an antidote. Dwight Yoakam is this doctor who he calls. And, of course, he knows immediately what it is. It's one of those, they gave you a Chinese cocktail. Mm. Those are deadly. It's like, those Chinese cocktails, whatever that means. So he then basically goes on this crazy run around Los Angeles to find a cure and also murder the guys that did this to him. And it's nuts. He rides a motorcycle in a gown from a hospital. He has sex with his girlfriend out in public in Chinatown. Mm-hmm. He has it was great. It was one of the guys from Always Sunny too. For Dennis, I think. and he has him like shock him with the paddles like George Clooney, the defibrillator. Epinephrine, he's taking shots at epinephrine, taking the nose sprays. It's just a nutty movie, and it was so crazy. And it's not like it did like gangbusters or anything. I think it opened at like 10 million or something. It wasn't like a crazy hit. But then they greenlit a sequel and made Craig 2 High Voltage, which you're like, what are they going to do? And it's like he's basically still trying not to die. Mm-hmm. It was the last theatrical appearance of Corey Haim, which so that was me and Neil Vandenberg went and saw it in theaters because of that. We're like, it's a Corey Haim isn't a new movie. We have to go see it in theaters. We enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. It's crazy. I think in the second one, they even bring back a couple of characters that don't make it from the first one. It's just like, the two nutty movies that we never got a third one is disappointing. I was really looking forward to it.
Do we really need a third Crank, though? Do we?
Probably not in this day and age. It would probably be not PC enough, I would imagine. Clifton Collins Jr. was in the sequel. Efren Ramirez, that's who I'm referring to. Efren Ramirez, I'm pretty sure he dies in the first one, but he's back in the second one as like his twin brother, I believe.
That's totally understand. Isn't Amy Smart the girlfriend?
Amy Smart is the girlfriend.
I do love
yes.
Amy Smart.
Yeah, she's great. And the second one they have, because the two movies they have public sex in two different spots. The second one's in a horse track. Let's see, where they actually use a bar to like block out Statham's penis. I think it's probably bigger than it needed to be, but that was probably his producing credit.
Yeah.
Reno Wilson,
have an ego, I guess.
Yes. Reno Wilson returns. He was in the first one. They're just crazy ass movies, and if you haven't seen the Crank movies, you're in for a wild ride because they are nuts. And they're going to lead us into our first movie in our reviews
of the week.
This week we get to Netflix's original movie called Kate. It stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I like when you type in Kate in the IMDb, it brings up actresses first. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. It is directed by Cedric Nicholas Troyan, written by Umair Alim, and it stars, as I said, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Woody Harrelson. Basically, in order to get me to see a movie, just cast Woody Harrelson, and I'm probably going to watch it.
Yeah.
He's, always fantastic. I do want to mention, too, Tananobu Asano, who was in Mortal Kombat, and I talked about him, Ichi the Killer, in this movie as Renji. And then Jun Kunimura, who plays Kijima, also in Ichi the Killer. Mm-hmm. So two Japanese actors from a movie I talked about that I really like. So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. And Tananobu was also in the Mortal Kombat remake as Raiden. Yes. We talked about that when we reviewed that movie. Mm-hmm. Michael Huseman plays a very small, tiny role in the beginning of the movie from Game of Thrones. So don't see him and be like, ooh, I like him. I'm going to watch this movie. He's barely
much like Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Don't get attached.
Yes, exactly.
Who was the young heroine?
Miku Patricia Martineau.
I really got a kick out of her. I thought she did a really nice job.
Yeah, she did a really good job. Let's see, a little bit past from her. A lot of kids stuff. A lot of Carl's Car Wash. I don't even know most of these things. So
much like you say, you made the comparison about Crank. I also made a John Wick. Especially the fight scenes. It's like, all right, Crank Wick. That's what this movie is.
Yes, Crank Wick. So that's a good comparison. I like that title. And it definitely Wick with the colors too. A lot of the colors are very John Wick like. So the movie starts with the main character Kate. She's an assassin, and she is tasked to kill a person, and she does. And that's where we meet Annie. Mm-hmm. She sees Annie, and it kind of humanizes her, as we see in a lot of these movies. That was one of if you read the critic reviews, one of the complaints about this movie was it was very familiar. They've done this kind of thing before. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find that with all assassin-type movies. And we've even reviewed some already. So, but this one, that happens, and then she wants out. She wants to do, like, one last hit type of thing. Well, of course, what happens is she wants to have one last night of, like, sex before she breaks out of being an assassin. Mm-hmm. Michael Huseman comes in. She gets poisoned with a poison that's going to kill her within 24 hours.
Right.
And so, similar to Crank, she has to basically find it in her to stay alive. She has this medicine that's basically the same thing as like Statham took in Crank, the epinephrine type stuff that's just kind of jacking up her adrenaline to keep her going. And she wants to kill the people that killed her. She knows she's going to die. There is no cure.
Right.
So she wants to murder the people that murdered her, and it starts to kind of unravel the storyline of what really was going on. You could probably figure it out. Again, it does follow a lot of the same tropes as these other movies. Woody Harrelson plays her handler, and he, has formed a father-daughter relationship with her.
You're the only person I've ever loved.
Yes, exactly, and it's a really good performance from him.
Yeah.
In a movie that probably didn't require such a good performance, but he did a really good job. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, though, she's the star here. She kicks a lot of ass.
And she does.
She takes a lot of names.
She takes a beating, though.
She does take a beating.
Crap.
It is a little different than some of your other, even in John Wick, he takes a beating. So, it's more realistic, I would say, in a way than something that, Seagal or Van Damme back in the day were in, where they just kind of kill everybody.
It's not so professional. She's making do and surviving any way she can.
And she's dying while she's doing it. So she's not as tough as she was when she wasn't dying.
Yeah,
I guess.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the kitchen scene.
Yes.
The kitchen fight scene. Where you don't have a weapon, grab 2 wine glasses, smash them, grab the stems, and there you go.
Yeah, it was.
You're a la Raphael from Ninja Turtles.
Exactly. That's basically what it was. There was lots of innovative weapons in that scene, especially. It was a great scene. It's a great fight scene. The final, showdown is really fun too. Just lots of cool action stuff. I think both of us had a lot of fun with this movie. It's not perfect, but it's an enjoyable time.
A nice little twist and turn.
Yes, exactly.
Not totally out of the blue.
Yes.
But,
somewhat expected, but still fun.
Yeah.
And maybe not. Maybe the twist was expected, but I think the motivations were a little different, which is nice. Nice change of pace. But it's very violent. It's a lot of fun. I would love to see her in more movies like this, or use her more as an action star. I think with something like Gunpowder Milkshake and Jolt, we're seeing that there are a lot of female action stars out there that could, maybe not rival Charlize Theron, but sit below her and start doing more of them instead of having this one action outing where you're like, oh.
I'm calling for right now a female Expendables movie right now.
Well, they've already done straight to video ones of those. There is one coming out next year with Jessica Chastain and a bunch of other lead actresses. They're supposed to be out this year, but because of COVID and stuff, it got pushed back. So look out for that one, because that will be a bunch of female actresses kicking ass.
How about that segue into that topic?
Yes.
It's almost like we know what we're doing.
So the next movie, I'd say, is definitely is Wayne and I were talking beforehand, and it has definitely become something that people either love or hate right away. It's been out for 3 days.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been out long.
Incredibly polarizing film.
It really has. And it's Malignant, directed by James Wan, starring Annabelle Wallis. It is a movie that...
It is a movie, that is for sure.
That at one point is one thing, and then at a certain point is a completely another thing, and kind of crazy and weird and off the wall, which is right up my alley. And that's... Not only do I love James Wan, which I do, he's one of my favorite directors, and especially when it comes to modern horror with Saw, Insidious, Insidious 2, Conjuring, Conjuring 2, Dead Silence, Death Sentence, whatever, goes on. I love the guy's work. I even love Furious 7 and Aquaman as well. So to me, I'm with everybody in the expectation category, as I was expecting something more along the lines of a Conjuring. And it's not. It maybe is that for the first 20 minutes, and it's not even his best version of that necessarily, but it's still that that. But I think that was his intention, was to kind of trick people into this is what you think it might be, but it's really going to be something else.
Right. As somebody that is not into the horror and the gore to the level that you are, the first 2 minutes is so it gets your hook. It gets the hooks in you. It's I need to know.
Yep.
What the hell is going on here?
And it takes a turn immediately too, because you get that opening scene and then you go completely to something else, and you're like, wait, what's going on?
Hard right.
And it and there is we talked about before, there is a trigger warning of there is a physical abuse in the beginning of the movie. Kind of jumps off the movie though, so it's needed to an extent. It does move the plot along in a way that it had to reveal the story. I'm sure there are other ways it could have been done, but this is how they chose to do it.
But just in today's day and age, it's nice to let people know, hey, there's a scene that could trigger something.
If you've
in you.
experienced something like that, yeah,
So
it could
just
definitely
go into it knowing and take steps to be prepared for it.
Exactly. But it is, yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but
it's hard to talk about this because if we talk about anything too much, it's like, oh, because that's how I was, kind of like, oh, I get it. It was more like, oh, okay, not I should have known.
And you know, I'd seen some reviews too, and I think Wayne kind of you alluded to them earlier when we were having our pre-conversation. There are some plot holes and stuff that maybe don't make as much sense necessarily, but it's still a very entertaining movie. It's very just crazy, just really weird and bizarre. I didn't love the ending, so that'll make it, a little lower in my James Wan rankings, but I still had a hell of a good time with it. I like when movies get weird, and there also is this debate too, because he said it was Giallo inspired, and it's his version of a Giallo film. Now, Giallo is basically a Italian slasher genre, is basically what Giallo is, and it can involve. It's basically taking a thriller but making it horror related. So then you have a slasher element, and which they do. There's a slasher element. There are elements in this movie that are Giallo related, I believe. Supernatural, which is another thing that kind of comes into play a little bit. The slasher element is very heavy in there. People talk about the gloves, and people laugh because having gloves doesn't make it Giallo, but a lot of the killers in Giallo films do have gloves.
I think that the thriller slasher is a perfect way to describe it.
Yes, it is. And that's, a thriller slasher with a really weird, bizarre twist. You get some great performances, too, from lesser characters. You got Zoe Bell, the stunt woman / actress from the Kill Bill movies and Grindhouse and stuff. She plays a prisoner in a cell with a mullet. Let's see.
What else do you need?
Right.
Boom, done. That's
it. That's it.
And I will say that a lot of the reviews that I read when I was doing some research on this, a lot of people thought that the acting was not very good, and I couldn't really understand the direction they were coming from. I thought everybody did a fine job.
I think when you
don't like something, you kind of just
you start picking things apart too, and I think definitely towards the end, the dialogue, and again that goes into what I don't like about the ending as much as even some of the dialogue was delivered a bit. So, like, the button it puts on it didn't work that as well for me. But, that being said, I thought Annabelle Wallis did a really good job. I think she's a really good actress. She started her career maybe not like she was in Annabelle, the first Annabelle, which nobody liked. She was in the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise. So
that nobody liked.
That nobody liked. So, but this movie, I think, it's like 70% of Rotten Tomatoes, so it's not loved, but it's not hated necessarily. But there are a lot of, if you go and find the audience, there's a lot of the audience that's either like you said, they really either like it or they hate it, and it just.
You made a comment about the button. I was thinking, God, the bow on this could have been a little bit tighter at the end. It's funny that you use that analogy. Yeah. So,
and that's really my only major complaint with it is that, because other than that, I enjoyed the almost 2 hour runtime of it. I've been waiting for this movie for quite some time because I'm a huge fan of his. Once they announced that they were going to release the HBO Max, I was super excited because it meant we got to watch it without having to go to the theaters.
There you go. I don't feel this one needs a sequel.
No, not at all.
I don't know really how that would even work, but
no. I think this is a one and done for him. He's doing Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
So I think if this is just his you guys let me do this movie in between Aquaman 2 and I'll be happy. And that was it.
There you go.
And every now and again you get a director where they just want a movie for them. And I think Sam Raimi did it with Drag Me to Hell after he took a break from his big budget movies for a year or two. And I think you get that with James Wan with this one, is you get a movie where, this is the type of movie that he would want to watch. This isn't necessarily the movie he thinks his fans will like. It's like, I want to see a movie like this, so I'm going to do one for me, and then I'm going to go back and do Aquaman 2, and I'll produce the Conjuring movies and the Insidious movies and all that, and that'll keep my fans happy. He's like, but this is one that I want to do for myself. And that's okay every once in a while. Sometimes you get someone like David Lynch, who I think most of his movies are done for himself, or only people that think like David Lynch. Where in this case, like I said, Wan has been made a career out of making kind of crowd-pleasing horror films and now superhero movies or furious movies. That he kind
Furious movies are superhero movies.
Yes, they're basically. I mean, they really are. That's what I explained it when my wife.
From 5 on, yeah. I mean, come on now.
When I explained it to my wife, she's like, "Well, why do you like this?" I'm like, just imagine they're superheroes and it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, like, and I think I even said, I'm like, and you like the Twilight movies because she's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, but they're dumb. They're dumb. The Furious movies are dumb, but they're fun. Anyway, back
But
to
it's about family.
It's about family.
Yeah.
Malignant. I recommend it, but go in knowing it's gonna get weird, and you have to be prepared for the weirdness. Otherwise, you'll just be like, oh, this is stupid.
It's gonna get weird.
I really dug it. All right, that leads me to our next segment, and that's Mike's horror movie pick of the week. And sticking with James Wan, I'm going to recommend Dead Silence. So Dead Silence is a movie that he did after Saw, and it's about a dummy, as you can see.
Hey. Oh, you're talking about the movie.
Yes. And it's really creepy and scary and fun. Ryan Quant from True Blood has as the main character in it. I really love this movie. The critics did not like it. It's kind of had somewhat of a cult following, I think, since it came out, but it's not talked about nearly enough. Dead Silence, check it out. It's usually streaming somewhere, probably for free at this point. Check it out. It's so good, and he did such a great job with this movie. It just showed how creative he could be. Him and Lee Wanell, who wrote the Saw movie with him. It's just so good. So I really recommend this movie, Dead Silence. Check it out. A lot of fun. All right. We'll move on to what we've watched this week. I got a couple things. Let's see here.
While you are looking your stuff up, I am celebrating the return of the NFL and college football last week with Friday Night Lights, the TV show. I am through 3 seasons already in a week. I am totally addicted. And while it is far from a perfect show. It's got a lot of heart to it, and I'm kind of shocked at myself for never watching this 15 years ago when it was on. So Kyle Chandler is the head coach.
Connie Britton. Yep.
They're the husband and wife.
Connie Britton reprising her role, basically.
Yeah,
because she was in the film as well.
Yeah. They're the head coach, and at some point in the series, the principal of the Dillon Panthers, a fictitious Texas high school football team. And when we talk about high school football and Texas, you know it goes to ridiculous levels of both fandom and corruption.
Yeah, Taylor Kitsch, that's kind of where everybody knows him from now.
Yeah.
The other guy, too, I forget the quarterback, Matt Saracen. I forget the actor's name, but that's kind of where he got famous as well.
I didn't know this is where Jesse Plemons came from.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Jesse Plemons and who's the girl that
Minka Kelly.
Well, Minka Kelly. And
Amy Teagarden.
Amy Teagarden, and the other one. There's another one.
Oh,
from the Marvel.
The one that plays Tyra.
Yes. I'm drawing a blank on her name right now. I like her a lot.
Palaki.
Yeah, Adrian Palicki. Yes, from John Wick. She started there as well.
Yep.
It's a really good TV show. I still haven't finished it, but I liked it. Yep. I don't have much from this week. I did watch this movie, Wayne. So we had the Arrow. Where we watched the Stylist, right? So I still have that. I haven't really watched it much, but there's this movie called Chill Factor, and this is the cover for Chill Factor, the Chill Factor. And I was like, wow, I've seen this cover for a while. I need to see this movie. It's on here. I'm gonna watch it. Does not live up to the cover. Not that you go into a movie wanting it to live up to the cover, but I'm like, come on, like that looks like a badass movie. It's about like a demon that like haunts people and like possesses a guy. It takes like 45 minutes to get to any deaths.
Oh no.
Someone does get an icicle in the eye, but he's not wearing a helmet, so it makes more sense because.
I was gonna say, who took out Cobra Commander with an icicle?
Yeah, exactly. There are some good kills in it. There is one good scene when the main character who's possessed realizes he's possessed. He just had coitus with his girlfriend, and he starts imagining the other people, which is strange because one of them's his sister. Very weird incest vibes too in this movie. But there's like this.
Is
cool...
the sister hot? Nothing. Sorry.
There's this cool witchy possession moment that the movie actually nails pretty well. But then after that, it's all downhill again. So it's not what I expected. It was from 1993, even though it looks like it was made in like the 70s because of the budget that they must have had on this thing.
So it's like It Follows, but bad.
Yes, kinda. Yeah, It Follows is fantastic, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, it does have that. It does have similar vibes too. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I was expecting more. It was part of the slasher category. It's not really a slasher, so that was also somewhat disappointing. Um, but yeah, that was really all that I really watched this week. I'm trying to think. Ted Lasso, newest episode. Ted Lasso is amazing. If you're not watching the show, I know you got to get Apple Plus to do it, but do it. Trust me, it's worth it just for that show alone. There are other good shows on there, but Ted Lasso is awesome and well worth your time. I did watch the first episode of season 5 of Lucifer. I know it's back for its 6th and final season. I did enjoy the first episode of season 5. I have yet to watch. I watched the first season on Netflix, which was season 4, but I have yet to watch any of the others. So I'm going to start making my way through that. But I realized how much I missed Lucifer when I watched that. I was like, oh, like I need to get back into this show.
Hello, bad guy.
Yes. Oh, God, so good. He's so good in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. Anything else you want to talk about, Wayne, that you've watched, or Friday Night Lights has been it?
Friday Night Lights has been my binge.
All right. Let me get to the news this week. There's not a whole lot, so we'll wrap this up pretty quickly here. Neil Gaiman's Dead Boy Detectives TV series in the works at HBO Max. Susan Sarandon and Anna Friel are going to star in a country music drama series for Fox.
I was going to say, they already made Nashville.
Yes. Well, they're making it again. Owen Wilson and Rosario Dawson to join Haunted Mansion reboot after Lakeith Stanfield and Tiffany Haddish, who are the two main stars, I believe. Morgan Freeman and Al Pacino to star in Sniff, a film noir set in a nursing home. Nick Cage starring in his first Western. It's called The Old Way. All right, releases. There's been a lot of release shakeups and new announcements and stuff here. Venom 2 has been moved up to October 1st after the box office success of Shang-Chi, and continues this week as it's going to end up in second place with like 35 million, which I think will be the highest second week for any movie to come out during the pandemic.
Yep.
So that's good for that. The box office is doing well, and that's a good sign. On the Block, final season hits Netflix October 4th. Escape the Undertaker, WWE interactive film starring The Undertaker, will debut on Netflix October 5th, Wayne. So it's a horror film where you're trying to run away from The Undertaker. It stars 2 other WWE guys. And then as the viewers, you get to decide what happens. So look out for that October 5th. I don't know that we'll review it, but maybe we'll plan on watching it, and that way we can talk about it later, just because it seems like an experience.
Right. We are heading into our favorite month of the year.
Yes, we are.
So
it'll definitely fit right in there.
We also will be having some more guests joining us.
For sure. And definitely for October, I've already got some ideas. So
indeed. So if you're interested in joining us, hit us up.
Let us know. Squid Game hits Netflix September 17th. That seems like a weird one, right up my alley. Nobody Sleeps in the Woods Tonight, Part 2 hits Netflix in October. Wayne, I talked about the first one probably a month or so ago. Really good, like, slasher from Poland, kind of slasher comedy. And it does set up for a sequel, so I was wondering if we were getting one, and here we are. We're getting it just in October. So excited for that one. Don't Look Up with Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, and many, many more actors hits Netflix December 24th. It's directed and written by Academy Award winner Adam McKay. This movie just dropped its first full trailer. It looks really good. It looks interesting. Leo is going to play more, again, another character where he's very kind of not sure of himself and very uneasy. So it looks fun. The stars are Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio. The plot is that they are two, I don't know if it's like astrophysicists or whatever it is, but 2 people that have know the world is about to end. And they're going around telling everybody it's about to end. And everyone, just like we are living in the time we're living in now, where everyone's denying science, people are denying it up until the final day. So that's what that one's about. Muppets Haunted Mansion, an original Disney Plus special, debuts October 8th on Disney Plus, obviously. Encounter, sci-fi thriller with Riz Ahmed, hits Amazon Prime December 10th. And this is big news, Wayne. I don't know if you heard this. Halloween Kills is going to now debut in theaters on October 15th and on Peacock for streaming. Same day. So
that is actually one I think I need to see in the theaters, to be honest. I really want to go that route, but I'm thankful that we have the option for those.
Yes. I agree, but I may be enjoying it at home. I haven't decided yet, but to me, it's like I'd rather not take the risk if I don't have to.
Right.
So that's probably how I ended up watching it. But what it shows me, because people are like, well, if this movie gets moved up because this movie's doing well, and this one's getting put to streaming because blah blah blah, horror movies aren't yet doing what the big budget superhero movies are doing during the pandemic. Candyman did well, sure, didn't do great. Free Guy did well, sure, didn't great. Not a horror movie, but an original movie, just a different movie, not a superhero movie. These movies that are doing well are the ones you expect to do well. The Marvel movies, the tentpole movies. Now, of course, Halloween's a tentpole type of film. It's part of a franchise. The first one from David Gordon Green did exceptionally well, but they're in the middle of a pandemic, and it's still going strong. So they're doing this to just make sure it gets out there and it gets seen by as many people as possible.
Yes.
Now, I did see one comment where someone's like, why would they pick that streaming service? It's because they own that streaming service, assholes. Universal is owned by NBC, which owns Peacock, blah, blah, blah. That's why. Because people are like, oh, why would they choose? Because they don't have to pay anybody to throw it on their own freaking streaming service. That's why.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can watch a lot of stuff on Peacock for free to begin with.
You can.
So.
It is a free service that you then, if you want, for Halloween Kills, you'll have to pay the $4.99 a month to just pay it once, really, or do a free trial or whatever.
Hey, you know what? If nothing else, it's showing the Sunday Night Football games for free.
This is true, yeah.
By the time this comes out, I will have watched the Bears probably get destroyed by the Rams. But,
probably. Really?
You never know. You never know.
What he does is Aaron Donald trips on the way out and takes out half the defensive line with him when he falls.
I think all he needs to do is take out Ramsey, and then...
That's true. And then Andy Dalton won't throw 9 interceptions. All right.
The wheels have come off, folks.
Moving on. Sorry. So deaths this week. I'm going to mention a few other ones, and we'll get to the big one that happened. Jean-Paul Belmondo from Breathless, dead at 88. Michael Constantine from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He played the father, dead at 94. Art Matrano, who played Mauser in Police Academy 2 and 3. That was when they didn't have Harris in the movie. Dead at 84. Apparently he had an accident 32 years ago. I didn't know about this at home that made him a paraplegic, so he never acted again. So kind of crazy story. The big death this week was Michael K. Williams, dead at 54 from a drug overdose. Something he had talked about, his struggles with addiction. It's very sad. It's sad too when you get people on there. Oh well, you deserved it because it was his own fault.
Ignorance, man. Ignorant. It's
ridiculous. Like those people have never struggled with anything. I smoked cigarettes for 10 plus years and and quit finally through the help of my lovely wife. And it was a struggle. It wasn't something easy. Now I've never been in drugs, but I'm not even gonna. It's just people have their own issues. They have their own struggles.
Look at the size of me. I struggle with bad food.
Exactly. So. I do as well. I just hide it better.
Absolutely loved Omar Little and Chalky. Omar Little from The Wire and Chalky White from Boardwalk
Empire. Those were his two, I think, major roles.
Most defining, I think, most recognizable in my opinion.
He did a lot of HBO stuff. He did do the Red Diving Resort film. There may be more words in there with Chris Evans, where he was the other main character on Netflix. So it's a good one if you haven't seen it.
This was definitely one that made me step back and go, oh.
A lot of people, I think, had that same reaction. It's like, oh, man, like, not him. And even though he did have his issues, according to a lot of actors that worked with him, that he was a very nice gentleman to work with. Very good, very talented. There was a really sweet video that was posted of Wendell Pierce and him at some sort of, I don't know if it was a red carpet of some kind. And he said like the nicest words about him, talking about how he was the greatest talent. And you could just tell Michael was like getting emotional just hearing these words from him. So it was just, sad to see that he passed, but kind of nice to see how everybody in the industry cared for him and really liked him as a person. And that he was a good dude despite his flaws, which we all have flaws, it's kind of a bummer to end the show on important, a death that's, I won't say important necessarily, but relevant to our movie and TV watching, and it's someone that we're going to miss as an actor because he brought so much to every role that he did, and maybe wasn't as recognized. He passed away. He's currently nominated for an Emmy, so he could maybe win an Emmy posthumously. I think that's how you say that.
Posthumously, yeah.
Yeah, that word. But we'll see. That was for Lovecraft Country. So I mean, he was just an actor that did a lot of stuff and very talented, and sad to see him see that he's passed away.
Right.
All right, so that's the show for this week, everybody. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed everything we talked about. If not, let us know.
We hope you enjoyed watching this as much as we enjoyed making it.
Exactly. Thank you for listening and watching Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. See you next week.